So there's 3 types of burnout you could experience whenever you're embarking on your journey, whether it's success, whether it's you're trying a new skill, whether you're trying to learn something new. There's short-term burnout, mid-term burnout, long-term burnout. Each one is different. They all can be considered burnout. Anybody who is going through any one of these things would describe what they're experiencing as burnout, even though all 3 of them are dramatically different. Long-term burnout is when you've been doing something for so long, you actually are just tired of doing it. You know, this is like after years and years and years. If you haven't been doing the same thing for like 7 years, you're not experiencing long-term burnout, because you have to go through the first 2 stages of burnout. Your mid-stage burnout is when you're like, man, I'm competent at this thing that I'm doing, or this new adventure that I'm on, but when will I start to see the fruits of my labor? You know, when will I start making money at this new thing? When will I feel like I'm actually good at this thing that I'm pretty confident I already know a lot about, but I still don't feel good? This is, you know, a couple years in. You might have I know for me, when I went through my midterm burnout, I was about 6 years into my business and my self-development. I had a moment of being about 5 years in where I was like, man, I finally don't suck. I finally don't suck. Now it's time for me to like see what I can actually do. I kind of flew under the radar for my first like 5 years. I was like, man, I don't want to promote myself too much, because I know if I promote myself too much too early, people are gonna, you know, first impressions are a real thing. So I don't want to like put myself out there too hard, so that when people find me, they're gonna think that I suck, because that I know that I suck, right? The most common type of burnout is gonna be your short-term burnout. And this is the most common because most people don't stick things out for any extended amount of time. You gotta think, any task, whatever it is, you know, some skill you wanna learn, whether you're a tattoo artist or, you know, you're trying to open a popsicle stand, you know, most people fail within the first couple years because they never stick it out, because they experience this like short-term burnout. Whenever you talk to somebody who's been through it, who's been at something for like 10 years, they will describe this early stage burnout as very simply, get ready for it, impatience. This early stage burnout is basically whenever you start to pick up a new skill, you know, people go, man, no matter how hard I try over and over and over and over again, and I suck at this, and I don't know if I should continue trying this because I'm not good. I hate to just convert it into simply impatience, but I think boiling things down to like the core problem is the best way to overcome them, right? There's a bunch of factors that go into what is quote unquote called early stage burnout, and really all it really boils down to is just being impatient. In your early, you know, stages of doing anything, you know, the reason why you start something is because you have some kind of interest in it, right? Because I'm interested, you know, I know more than the average person, right? You take a 1,000 people, just because you have an interest in something or a hobby in something or even a passion for something, chances are you're going to be in like the top, you know, out of 1,000 people, like the top 10 knowledgeable people about any given topic. Most people don't realize how much they know compared to the average person, right? So if you have even the slightest interest, right away you're more knowledgeable than 1,000 people. Basically, like the first step you take, like if you were to pursue something professionally. So, you know, my friend Mimi, who asked this question, she does these crazy beautiful clay sculptures, and I look at her and I'm like, how in the world? Like, I can do some intricate, you know, leather carving stuff, but like my mind can't even wrap around how gnarly some of her clay sculptures are. And I'm like, dude, I'm literally a professional craftsman. Like for the past 12 years, I've been doing some form of leather crafting, and I know nothing about clay sculpture. So it's tough, because when you're at the very first stage where you want to start pursuing something professionally, you don't realize how much of an expert you are. But then because you're involved in the community, whether you know, watch the content, like, you know, I'm sure she follows plenty of sculptors and things like that, she can compare her work to somebody who's been doing it for 10 years. And she's like, wow, I already know a lot about this, but I'm nowhere close to these people who I look up to. And that's where the impatience comes from, because I know so little about clay sculpture. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Let's say we're talking about somebody who wants to open up a fine dining restaurant, right? Usually you're going to like have some recipes, you're going to enjoy cooking, and then you go and you look up to these world-class chefs who have Michelin stars, who are like world-renowned. People literally fly across the world to come visit certain restaurants, and that's what you want to do. You can't just go from a person who like cooks for your friends and families into Michelin star restaurant, right? Like you need to build up some experience. Like maybe go, figure out how to be a head chef at some like shitty local mom and pop, and then you'd get that experience, and then you go into maybe a larger city, like a town over, and you go work for a bigger restaurant and gain experience there. And then maybe you finally get to like a really high-end restaurant, and then maybe from there, after you've already had 5-10 years of experience, maybe that's when you open up your restaurant. And then from there you get more and more experience. Maybe you start making friends, maybe you can start asking questions, you can start bumping elbows with these Michelin star people, and then get tricks, and you study and you study and you study and you study, and you get better, and you progress and you progress and you progress. And then next thing you know, you look up and you're 10-15 years down the road, and now finally being a Michelin star restaurant is within your grasp. Now you're maybe you actually in the striking distance to make some changes and actually make the pursuit and the next step into earning that Michelin star, which was ultimately your dream from 15 years ago. And I really like the Michelin star example, because there's an actual award of sorts that you can achieve. You can get that Michelin star, but when it comes to, people who want to be, woodworkers, knife makers, tattoo artists, all these people, there's no like prize at the end that tells you like, hey, you made it. So it's difficult. Like when you look at, for example, I have a lot of viewers who are into leather crafting because I'm a leather crafter, but when you look at like someone like me or some of my peers who have been at it for 10-15 years, you don't realize that it's not like we've just been where we are for 10 years. It's a constant evolution, it's a constant journey. Hell, I just expanded my shop. I've been self-employed for almost 8 years now, and I'm just now like purchasing a shop that is like a big enough shop to where like I can actually have stations to do things, and I don't have to put everything away. Like I've worked out of a bedroom, I've worked out of an 8x10 shed, I've worked out of a garage. Like there's so many steps in between. So when you're in those early stages of burnout, you know what I mean? You've been doing something for a couple months. It's like at the very beginning of pursuing anything, it's really exciting, because you're like, if you want to be a world famous woodworker, it's like you could be a fan of wood sculpture and watch YouTube videos and watch TV shows and whatever. But when you first take that step into actually making something for the first time, or actually tattooing somebody for the first time, or making like physically creating something with your own two hands for the first time, you're like, wow, I've never done step 1, I've never done step 2, I've never done step 3, I've never done step 4, and whatever it is, you haven't done the 10 steps it takes to make something. You gain all that knowledge so fast. You're like, for easy numbers, let's say the thing that you want to pursue, let's say there's 5 steps to it. The first time you do anything, you do steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go from 0 experience on step 1 to now you have, it's like 1,000,000% more knowledge than you had, because now you actually got your hands dirty and did step 1. And then same thing with step 2, same thing with step 3, same thing with step 4 and 5. And then let's say you do something, or you make something a second time. You only have 1 attempt on each one of the steps, and then what happens is the second time you do it, you go from 1 to 2. So now you literally double your experience the second time you do something. And then what happens is you do it a third time, and you go from 2 to 3. Now you're only increasing your increased knowledge by 33%, and then you do it a 4th time. Now it's only 25%. You do it a 5th time, now you gain 20%. You do it a 6th time, I think it's like 17.25%. And every time you do it, you gain less and less experience. So what happens is you start out with no experience, and then there's this insane spike where you instantly have all this experience that you didn't have the day before. but as you continue doing it, you get less and less, basically, like, experience points, right? Like, every time you do the thing, because going from project 0 to project 1, it's this huge spike of knowledge. But once you start going from project 19 to 20, you don't have as much enthusiasm because you're still early at the thing and you still don't have a ton of knowledge about it, and you're still trying to learn all the steps. It can get very, very discouraging. So you could call this like early stage burnout, like impatience. You could also call it just like discouragement, right? You're like, man, I've done 20 projects, I've made 20 knives, I've made 20 chairs, I've done 20 tattoos, and I'm not really getting any better, because all that kind of awesome energy and enthusiasm you have in the very beginning trying something out for the brand new, as a brand new person embarking on a journey, now you're just sitting here going like, wow, every time I do this, it's like I just suck. Most people don't make it out of this stage, because this is when people start hitting that sticking point of like, man, I've been doing this thing for 3 months, or I've been doing this thing for 4 months, or I've been doing this for half a year now, and I'm barely getting better at all. Like, maybe I just suck at this thing. And people will experience what they feel like is burnout, but it's really not. It's just your impatience and you getting discouraged. Hardly anybody at all in the world who does anything who's just instantly great. It's like a universal statement for, it doesn't matter what you want to get into. Like, when you get inspired, like I was talking about in the beginning, you're typically looking at the very top tier of people to aspire to be like, right? Like, you look at like award winners, you look at somebody who's like in the NBA, they go like, Michael Jordan and Kobe and LeBron are all their idols and people they look up to. They don't look up to some guy who like played one game, who sat on the bench most of the year. They look at the very, very tip of the spear for what people aspire to be like most of the time, right? Like whatever it is you're pursuing, I can almost guarantee you that you're looking at the very top 1% as people to aspire to. And then there's so many people, right? Like, how many people have played in the NBA for, the past 10 years that aren't Kobe, LeBron, and Michael Jordan, that you like don't have any fucking clue who, their name. Like, there's so many people that are kind of at the top but still in the middle of the pack, right? And then how many people never fully made it to the NBA? How many people never fully made it to even play in college? How many, So if you can convert and think about the world in different terms for maybe your craft, you can have a better understanding of where you're at in the journey, right? There's no varsity level tattoo artist, or no varsity level, restaurant owner. It's just like they have their own versions of it, but there's varsity, then there's college, then there's like semi-pro, and then there's professional, and then there's like professional starters, and then there's like all-stars, and then there's greatest of all times. There's so many different levels to it, and people tend to barely even get their foot in the door doing something for 6 months or whatever, and think that maybe I'm just not meant for it. Part of me feels like sorry for people that are like this, to where they have this thought of like, maybe it's not for me. And the other part of me has like zero sympathy, where if you've been doing something for 6 months and you decide, well, maybe it's not for me, well, then maybe it's not for you, because if it was for you and you really wanted it that bad, you would continue to pursue it. You would know it in your heart to keep going, rather than, like the average person who is just a normal person who just kind of humdrums their way through life. That's why there's so many average people, because they get to a certain point and they go, well, maybe it's not for me. Maybe pushing through isn't for me. Maybe despite the adversity and the self-doubt that I have right now, I'm going to still learn whatever skills I need to learn to get better and break through to the other side. You know what I mean? And maybe you're a person who does this in cycles, right? Like, maybe you pick up painting and then you don't like that, so then you pick up another hobby, and then that doesn't work out after 6 months, and then that doesn't work out for 6 months. Maybe your thing is just getting 6 months into something and just enjoying it. You know, it doesn't have to always be something that you turn into a profession or a career or whatever. But in your heart, if you want it bad enough and you know in your soul that you want it, you will pursue it. I know it sounds dramatic, but I will literally fucking be homeless to pursue being self-employed. Like, there's something in me that I don't know if I had the spark when I was a kid. You know, I sold chickens, I mowed lawns, I scooped horse shit, I washed semi-trucks. I always had that. Like, to me, that is the coolest feeling. Like, I will go homeless and sell bottle cap art. Literally, I will turn twigs into action figures. I will do something before I go in and clock in at a job. And that's just what speaks to me in my heart. And I don't know if that's because I watched my parents. Maybe I watched my dad work his whole life away for, replacing rides at Disneyland. My dad was one of the biggest, most important welders at Disneyland in Southern California. And after his 35 years of dedication, he got a stupid fucking statue and was like, yep, well, we're a fucking $1 trillion company. You know, here you go, Steve. You get a little $40 statue for your 35 years of service. And maybe watching that growing up is what like ripped my heart out so bad that I'm like, I will never fucking live that life, because I saw how my dad's attitude towards that is, and getting to watch that is it's so sad that just whatever it is inside my soul, just I will wash cars, I will scrape gum off of sidewalks, I will figure out whatever it is to not go clock in at a regular job. And I just so happen to like have the leather knowledge with working with my brother that this is the path that I chose, and through time this is what I've grown to love. You know what I mean? And that's when you start getting into that mid-stage burnout and that late-stage burnout, where that's what that like mid-stage burnout for me is like, I don't necessarily love leather crafting with all my heart, but it's all I know how to do, and I love the process of every day hustling and making stuff with my hands and doing art. And I can look and grab from all these different areas where, you know, I can come up with a list of 10 things that I absolutely love. Like the act of leather crafting, do I love that with all my heart? Not so much. But all these other components of it I love so much that I can find the drive to keep going forward. And that was where I pushed through my mid-level fatigue, right? Or my mid-level burnout. And now I love leather crafting. Leather crafting has given me so much freedom. It has made me the man that I am today. It's provided for my family. I moved halfway across the country. It's built me the shop. I have a beautiful garden that I built with my wife. I had a set of chickens. I got a lowrider. It's something that I eventually fell in love with. I fell in love with the parts, and then I fell in love with it. And each one of those is a different level of burnout, right? And we're just talking about the first one today, but that's kind of a glimpse into why I say that this first stage of burnout, this early stage burnout, is kind of just being impatient, right? Like, if you can't muscle through something for 6 months to a year without feeling like, is this right for me? Then it's probably not right for you. It just isn't. And that's okay, right? But you'll figure out over time, like, if it is for you. And I guess the last point too, I'll briefly touch over is it's difficult because, like I said earlier, where people look up to the highest level of execution of whatever trade or craft it is that they're pursuing, like they strive for it. It's in their heart. They want to be one of the best people in the world at it. And if that's you, usually the higher you shoot, the more discouraged you are, right? You're only 6 months in and you're like, man, I'm still not that great at this. I'm so far from where I want to be. The discouragement is so much more. There's some people out there who like don't even shoot that high. They're just like, I love doing the thing, and I'm gonna just I'm just gonna be a average guy who does this trade, and and they're content with that. And those people typically don't run into as much burnout because they're kind of just like middle of the road. It's the drive to want to pursue greatness that is what creates the burnout. Really, the answer, and this is gonna sound super corny, is that the answer to burnout is number one, self-evaluation. Do you want this bad enough? What are you willing to sacrifice to pursue the thing that you are pursuing right now? Maybe there's something else that you would sacrifice more for. Go try that thing. You know what I mean? And then number two is, as corny as it sounds, is figure out how to like fall in love with the process and learn how to get those small victories. Because, you know, when you're on project number 30, you know, the difference between project 30 and project 31, you might make project 31 worse than you made project 30, you know. And that's okay, because guess what? When you've been doing it for 10, 20 years, you know, project number 3045 might be way worse than project 3044. You know what I mean? Even to this day, being 10 years in, sometimes I'll make stuff and I'll be like, I don't know what the fuck happened right there. Like that, this is not my greatest, you know, piece of work that I've ever put out. And then sometimes I'll make something and I'm like, I can't believe my two hands just made this thing. So being able to evaluate and fall in love with the process and be patient and learn how to take those little wins, you know, as long as you can, as much as you're gonna sit there and critique every little microscopic piece of whatever thing it is that you're pursuing, you have to be able to like take at least one good thing. You know what I mean? You can hate 99% of what you've done, but if you can find one redeeming factor, like, hey, this attempt was a little bit better than the last one, that's all it is. If you're like me in that, like, maybe the thing you're pursuing isn't your ultimate passion, like, learn how to fall in love with something. Like, for me, in the early stages, I just loved, like, the fact that I was getting better. Like going, hey, I still think I suck, but I suck less than I did a month ago. I suck less than I did 2 months ago. And if you can sit there and appreciate that, you're gonna fall in love with the process of getting better. You know, even if you look at my work now, I can sit and look back, you know, 6 months ago and totally notice where I'm different. If I look back a year ago, I go, oh my God, I'm so much better than I was, you know, a year ago. If I look back 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it's like, doesn't even look like the same person who's made the attempts. That's how it'll work for you, right? To get over that early stage burnout, most people, you know, stop attempting the thing that they're attempting. Is you just got to push through it and be patient and appreciate how far you've come. And the beautiful thing about modern technology is that there's a good chance that you have pictures of the first thing that you ever made, you know, whether it's your knife, your wood carving, whatever it is, to compare. Like, and if you can't look at where you're at right now versus your first attempt, if you can't appreciate the progress that you've made, then you are gonna burn out. And there's nothing that I could do. There's nothing that somebody could teach you. There's nothing that any kind of sense anybody could talk into you to like continue and be successful, right? If you can't watch your own victories, and you can't start having that faith in yourself that you're going to continue to get better. Once you have the faith in yourself that you can continue to get better, then it's just a waiting game. Then it's just how long can you muscle through it? How long can you continue to go before you're finally at a point where you want to be? Wouldn't you know it, I know how to be positive and not talk about the darkness and the struggling and all the other negative stuff. So if you like this video, send it to somebody who you think will appreciate it. I'm just a guy who has overcome a lot of adversity to have built a life cooler than my wildest dreams, just through learning lessons the hard way. If you like this video, share it, fucking drop a comment, tell me I suck. If you're struggling with anything on your journey to success, I might be able to give my 2 cents, so drop that down in the comment, and chances are I've been through it, so drop them below. Thanks for watching. Till next time, I'm out.